comment on the PCR train. But talk about cost, value, if you see a role.
And I'll piss people off with this. Let me say where I do see it works. Fungus, onychomycosis. Now, as a disclosure, I do work a little bit. I haven't done a lot, but I do work a little bit with Baco diagnostics. I think for osteo, where you have a low prevalence, a low number of bacteria, and you have the sensitivity of a molecular test, and you also only are going to have one or two organisms. It's a really good way to go. Where I have a problem is wounds. Because if you send a specimen to a wound to one of these labs, especially if they're doing deep dive metagenomics, you're going to get 100 organisms. Because they're going to be every strand of DNA from every organism known to man, and some that aren't even known to man. Or RNA, what are you going to do with that information? How do you know what's pathogenic or not pathogenic? How do you know what to treat? It's not telling you that a particular organism antibiotic's going to work. It's telling you that it might have a resistance gene, it might have a MEK-A gene. You guys know what a MEK-A gene is? It confers methicillin resistance in most cases. It might have a VAN-A gene. They give you the genetic determinants of resistance. They don't directly run a test. That's issue number one I've got, is that I think it's extremely sensitive, but we don't know what to do with that data that we get. Number two, cost. These labs are being reimbursed $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 for one of these tests. It's about $40 to $50 to do a standard culture. All right, $40 to $50 to do a standard culture. Can you justify all that extra money for one of these tests? So what's happening now in our profession is there are companies coming to podiatrists and saying, set up a lab in your office. And you look at all the money you'll make. In fact, I got a blast email that I'm sure a lot of the audience got also just last week from some company, I'm not going to mention names, that say, set up a PCR lab in your office. The benefits are endless. And what's the first benefit they list? Increased practice revenue. Ladies and gentlemen, if somebody comes to you and the first words out of their mouth are increased practice revenue, turn and run. Do not walk.